Isaac Uno is suing his former tenants, Ann V. Kelly and Kevin Jackson, for unpaid rent and property damage.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, please.
Hello, Judge. Case number 2116, Uno versus Kelly Jackson.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Mr. Uno, you purchased a duplex home, 2 different apartments.
That's correct.
In what month and year did you purchase the home?
November of 2020.
And when you purchased it, one of the duplexes was occupied by the defendants.
That's correct.
It is your claim that they owe you for rent
Yes.
and for property damage.
That's correct.
They are no longer there.
No.
Mr. Jackson?
Yes.
How long were you and your wife living in the duplex before November of 2020?
We moved in June of 2019.
And at the time, do you recall who your landlord was in June of 2019?
Yes.
Between June of 2019, when you first moved in, and November of 2020, when the plaintiff bought the property, was there any work done on that property?
Not at all.
No maintenance?
No maintenance.
Okay. So from the time you moved in, the prior owner did no maintenance on that property, did no painting?
Just the minor stuff before we moved in. They just painted and just had everything looking nice, the floors.
So just a second. So the prior owner painted the premises and did the floors?
Yes, it was carpet and some flooring in the kitchen.
And Mr. Uno did not do any other painting or flooring or any cosmetic work on the duplex when he purchased it in November of 2020?
No.
So whatever was there by the previous owner of the property is still there?
Yes.
I'm just asking you this because your counterclaim is for child endangerment, and the child endangerment is because of lead paint. That's what you write here.
Yes.
He didn't put in the lead paint, right?
Yes, thinking about that.
He didn't paint it. You don't know when it was painted. Maybe it was painted by the prior owner. How do you know? By the way, do you have medical records of the child that you claim has lead poisoning?
Yes.
I'd like to see them. May I see them? I have no idea what this says.
That's the piece of paper that he gave me from the hospital.
Well, I don't understand
for
it.
his blood work.
I'm not a doctor, so I can't.
Okay.
We have something from the health department also stating that because my son his lead was found in his system, they got involved.
I understand that. He did not paint the apartment.
No, ma'am.
When you, just for my own curiosity, when you bought this place, do you remember the purchase of it? And when you purchase a property, usually there's an inspection.
Yes.
And one of the questions usually has to do with lead paint. Do you remember any of that from when you purchased the property?
I didn't receive any notification of lead paint from the inspectors.
Well, usually they sign off that there is no lead paint.
I don't remember seeing because they never mentioned anything about it.
Nothing about lead paint?
No.
Okay. Did you ever have the home tested, by the way, for lead?
Only when we found out about my son having lead.
Okay. And do you have the test result?
And there was lead found in 2 places, not just the bathtub.
Miss Kelly, the issue is he didn't do any of that painting.
Right.
He bought the place. You had been living there for 1.5 years before he bought the place.
Right.
Right?
Yes.
Okay. And your son was born within that 1.5 years.
Well, we moved there, he was 6 months.
He was 6 months old, so he lived there for 1.5 years even before he purchased it.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
We did buy the things to fix the bathroom up. He told us to take them back to fix the tub and everything because we asked him to fix it. So the things we had, like to get the tub fixed, the flooring and everything, he told us to take back.
How many people were living in the duplex?
In our apartment?
In your apartment?
4.
4. Including the baby?
Yes, ma'am.
Including the baby. And how old's the other child?
She's 14.
Okay. Do you have that report?
No. This is just stating where it was at.
The health department?
Yes, I thought that piece of paper that I gave you was that one.
No.
This is just
doesn't say
This is just showing where the lead was found in the house.
How old is this duplex?
It was built in 1906, so almost 115 years or so.
Yeah. And they certainly used lead paint
Possibly,
then.
yeah, I'm not sure about
I'm
it.
not sure.
I don't
But-
understand about it.
Ms. Kelly, Mr. Jackson, that's not his fault. That's not his fault. So now I would like to know, Mr. Uno is suing you for rent. And I'd like to know first, how much rent were you paying?
$750.
And that's what you were paying under the old lease?
Yes.
And were you current on your rent when Mr. Yuno took over the property?
Yes.
In November of 2020?
Yes.
So far correct?
That's accurate.
When did you stop paying rent?
December of 2021.
So you paid rent for a year?
Yes, ma'am.
Were you working, Mr. Jackson?
Yes, when I first moved in, yes, I was working 2 jobs.
And were you working from November of 2020 to December of 2021?
Yes, I was. It was.
For whom?
Yes, I was. I was working for TGI Fridays.
And Ms. Kelly, were you working?
No, ma'am, I'm disabled.
And how much were you receiving in pay?
I was only getting,
If you have to think about it, you don't remember.
I wasn't getting too much because it was during COVID, and I was working at a restaurant, and I was only allowed to work 3 days out of the week.
Okay. And what happened in December of 2021?
What happened was he already sent us a letter previously saying that he wanted to go up on the rent to a.
Okay.
Yes, to
So you had no
$1,000.
lease anymore, and he wanted to raise the rent. Okay. I believe you. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before.
Yes, that was the first one, but I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Isaac Yuno claims his former tenants, Ann V. Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Ann V. and Kevin are countersuing for child endangerment and a constructive eviction.
And in what month was that?
He sent it to us, I want to say.
Do you remember, Mr. Yuno?
It was 90 days before the 1st of December, so that would have been, I think, September 31st or October 31st. Maybe.
That he was raising the rent to what?
To $1,000 a month.
Effective December.
Yes, December 1st.
And what happened in December?
We were at that time looking for a new apartment, and at that time it was hard because around that time a lot of the rent was going up from just being like $800, $900 to like $1,200 to $1,400 for rent for a month there.
Don't speak.
Okay.
And that was why we stopped paying rent, because we were actually looking for a house. Even when he gave us the 90 days.
Okay. So, Mr. Jackson, based upon what you just told me, so stop shaking your head, based upon what you told me, your landlord gave you 90 days notice that if you wished to stay on, he was raising your rent to $1,000 a month.
Yes.
And you started to look around for a new place.
Yes.
And the new places were very expensive.
Yes.
And you didn't find a place.
No.
So you decided to stay in this place.
No.
So what did you do?
We.
So if
Actually,
you didn't
we-
find a place
Yeah, we decided.
in
yeah,
December,
we was trying to stay there until we found a place.
I assume that they paid rent in September.
Yes,
Oh yes, yes.
In October,
yes,
Yes.
they paid rent in October.
yes.
Good. And November?
November was the last month that they paid.
So they paid in November.
Yes.
So you stopped paying rent in December of 2021.
Yes.
Do you,
Can I say
don't?
what? Oh,
No,
sorry.
you cannot.
Okay.
If I need you,
Yes,
I'll
ma'am.
come to you.
Okay, yes, ma'am.
Okay?
Okay.
Because so far he's doing fine. You stopped paying rent in December of 2021. Tell me why.
We didn't want to live there ourselves anymore either, but it was just a lot of things going on at the house. Like after my father passed away, and he first gave us the first eviction notice, because he gave us more than one.
Just a second.
Okay, I'm sorry.
We're skipping over.
Okay.
He didn't give you an eviction notice, I assume, until you stopped paying rent.
No, before December, he gave us like 3 of them. I think I want to say 3.
Really?
Yes.
Why were you trying to evict them before?
They had torn up the carpet upstairs. It was a moratorium for evictions, but there was a stipulation that emergency evictions for nuisance tenants could be granted before then.
Is there any reason why you took up the carpets?
Yes. The same thing. Before he took over, everything was in the house before that, and we complained to the previous owner that the carpet was already dirty. They said that they were going to come and shampoo it, but never did. Like, we would walk and our socks would be black, our feet would be black, so we wanted to take the carpet up. It was dirty to us. And I myself actually told him about it. I went downstairs to his apartment because he lived downstairs from us. Talked to him about it. He came upstairs, and I showed him a section of the carpet that wasn't even connected to the floor. You can lift up the whole carpet and like across a whole section of the wall. And then when I did that, he seen that the hardwood looked kind of decent. And then instead of putting new carpet on, he wanted the hardwood to get sanded down and just get stained and and lacquered over.
So you took the carpet off?
Yes.
I believe you. Sounds right, Mr. Okay. And that was the reason that you used to try to evict them before?
Yes, that was the first one. But I don't agree with his statement.
Well, what statement don't you agree with?
Well, a number of things that he said. I didn't authorize him. We spoke. I asked him in the first meeting if there was anything that they wanted to have spruced up or anything as a good gesture, and they took it upon themselves to take up the carpet without my permission.
Okay, not a huge deal. Not a huge deal. You can use it as a huge deal if you want your tenants out because, you can re-rent that duplex for substantially more money.
It was more about their conduct, that they were being very disturbing behavior and just being off the wall. So I wanted them out for a lot of reasons.
Well, I know, but only one of them qualified under the eviction moratorium.
Yes, for emergency of dismantling the
Only
place.
one, and that would have been the carpet. Okay, Mr. Jackson.
Yes.
I'm back to you, sir. I haven't figured out yet. You stopped paying rent in December, and you moved out in what month?
We didn't move out until June.
June. So January, February, March, April, and May. Let's say 5 months' rent that you didn't pay, correct?
Yes.
Why?
Can I speak, Your Honor?
No, him. Tell me why you didn't pay the 5 months' rent, Mr. Jackson.
We just figured that, we didn't figure. We didn't want to pay him $1,000 because to us,
Okay, so
we felt
let's say you didn't want to pay him $1,000, even though you just told me finding another place would be more expensive, right? You said $1,200, $1,400, but you didn't give him $750. You gave him $0 for those 5 months. So I'm going to come back to you, Mr. Jackson. Does your wife receive disability payments because of her disability?
Yes.
Yes. How much a month?
That I don't know.
How much a
never
month
got
do you
into that
receive,
with
Ms.
her.
Kelly?
$1,000.
$1,000. And did you continue to receive that $1,000 every month from December until June?
Yes, ma'am.
You see, certain things remain constant. Your disability payments remain constant.
Right.
If you live in an apartment and you have the same sort of income, then you pay rent.
Right.
And if you didn't pay $1,000, so I hear you. Well, that's what he said he wanted. And he's the landlord. And he's allowed to do that if you're going to stay in his premises. But you paid nothing, Mr. Jackson, and that's what I don't understand.
Well, the furnace was busted.
Just a second.
Yeah.
Miss Kelly.
Sorry, I'm sorry.
What? You paid nothing.
Yeah, nothing. Yeah.
Where did you move in June?
Moved in the same area, like kind of like probably 10 minutes away from that particular street.
Is it a private house or an apartment?
It's a house, but it's a duplex as well.
Duplex. So the same sort of setup. And how much rent are you paying?
Pay $950.
So almost as much as he wanted in his rent. But are you more comfortable in that unit?
Yes.
Okay.
My wife walked down there and asked was he the landlord, and he just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs and introduce us.
Well,
But,
I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're ahead of the game so far.
Isaac claims his tenants, Envy Kelly and Kevin Jackson, owe for unpaid rent and property damage. Envy and Kevin claim Isaac forced them to leave.
Now, you saved over 5 months, let's say minimally $750.
$37.50.
$37.50. Now, Mr. the only question that I have to ask you is, Mr. Jackson and Miss Kelly say that they filled out some sort of forms for rent relief during COVID, and you signed it. And they say you received money from the state for any unpaid rent. Did you receive any money from the state for rent that they didn't pay?
No, I approached them with an application, but the program that funds the landlord relief for the moratorium was only open for 1 month, and I came and went, and I missed it, and I never got it. So I did have them fill out something. It was just a hardship thing, but they didn't give me the money for it. I never received anything.
So you didn't receive any money. So far, Ms. Kelly and Mr. Jackson, you owe Mr. $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay while you occupied his premises. You, your furniture, your children, I don't care what it is. That's what you didn't pay. And you can't save up your money and not pay your landlord. That's his business. Just like you work for Fridays and you get your pay when you're supposed to, that's his business. He bought a house. He was counting on the income from that house to pay some of his expenses, and you didn't pay it. Well, there's no question you have to pay it. Now you have a counterclaim. I've already gotten rid of child endangerment. This is 150 years old. Constructive eviction. So I'd like you to tell me your allegations of constructive eviction.
Is that like from him not doing anything to the apartment while we lived there?
I assume. You say you were
yes.
constructively evicted.
Yes, he...
But you didn't leave.
Yes, he has a couple of text messages in here where he says that he actually came up to the apartment to check things. He brought up plumber, when he first got there in November, we didn't have a working toilet until...
Just a second.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
So before he bought it, is that what you're telling me?
I mean, not before, I'm sorry. When he got the apartment in November, the previous owners, we were trying to contact to see who we pay for rent.
Just a second.
Okay, yeah.
He bought the duplex in November of 2020.
Yes.
Is what you're telling me, Mr. Jackson, that certain things weren't working prior to his purchasing the property?
No, I'm sorry. I want to take that back. After he purchased it, we didn't even know he purchased it because he was living downstairs, and my wife walked down there and asked, was he the landlord? And he just said that he was the building manager. So nobody even got rent for the month of November when we lived there, not him or even the previous people, because he didn't even come upstairs and introduce us.
Well,
but,
I wouldn't complain about that, sir, if you're ahead of the game so far. If you didn't pay rent for November.
Yeah.
You didn't pay the prior landlord, and you didn't pay him. So far, you're ahead $750. Okay, keep going.
But to go back to the November, so during November, our toilet got stopped up, like right before Thanksgiving.
So shortly after he purchased it, he hadn't been up in the apartment, right?
No, not
Just
at all.
you, your wife, your teenage daughter, and the baby.
Yeah, and the kids.
Okay, and the toilet got stopped up, and
he brought in a plumber, and then the guy found out that my son put a little toy in there, and he actually got
so
the toy out.
Toilet was broken by your son. Okay, so now the plumber said, here's the toy. Kid threw a toy down the toilet. Not an unusual, and
then the very next month in December, my son didn't put anything down there. The toilet started acting up again. It wouldn't flush for like all the way up into the next year, and it never got fixed. But it was from...
Well, you had to have, sir, you lived there with 3 adults. So there had to be a functioning toilet in the house.
It wasn't functioning.
So where did you go to use a functioning restroom?
Her mom lived up the street from us, so sometimes we lived up the street, or sometimes we would just still use the toilet.
Okay. You owe him $3,750 for rent that you didn't pay. Counterclaims dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I had to collect monetary judgment through the courts.
Him being the landlord, he left us like living in crappy conditions.
It was a unbearable situation that I was going through with the noise and the disturbances.
Yeah, he never came up there at all to fix anything.
And the destruction of the property.
He just started making up so many rules, to make it uncomfortable for us to live there.
Well, it was, it's pretty quiet now.
That man is crazy. I'm glad it's over with.
You know what I think is interesting, Sarah, with these cases, we've had a lot of them. The forgiveness that the government wanted to show to people who were having trouble during COVID, work-related trouble, didn't have the same income, and didn't want to have a whole bunch of dispossessed homeless people. It came from a good place, as did some of the monies that were sent out by the government to sort of help people over a difficult time during the height of COVID. But then there are other people who suffer as a result of that, like a landlord who buys a property, a duplex property. Part of it is for income so that they can pay off mortgage, taxes, lawn service, whatever you have to pay on a house. And then the defendants who really had no changed circumstances that they indicated to me. He was working, she was getting whatever she gets from disability, which is not insubstantial. I don't know if they get any other assistance for any of their other children, but certainly they moved into a place that's more expensive now, that's not far away. They just decided not to pay rent. And I don't think that that is the spirit of what either the federal government or the states who enacted it meant to happen, because the plaintiff owner of this property has rights too. Yeah. You've taken away a right of his.
I agree to an extent, but I also think that that's more a problem on the government's implementation of the moratorium in the first place. That's what ended up hurting the landlord. These people were simply taking advantage of a legal loophole that was created for them. He was in the restaurant business, which, as we know, was one of the toughest hit by COVID.
Right.
She was on a fixed income that wouldn't be enough to cover, well, barely enough to cover the rent on its own. And then they have to support themselves, feed themselves. They have 2 children. Mm-hmm. So I'm sympathetic towards the taking advantage of a legal loophole. So I don't know, if I was in your position, I might have decided differently.
Okay.
But that's okay.
All right.
We can agree to disagree.
That sometimes happens.
Yeah.
Please step forward.
Ryan Hastings is suing his former roommate, Peyton Kammer, for security deposits, personal belongings, and filing a false restraining order.
Mr. Hastings, you and the defendant were roommates? I'm not quite understanding.
Yes, correct.
Clearly, whether you were roommates or in a relationship. What was it?
It was just roommates.
When did you start to be roommates?
In September of 2020.
Did you know each other before?
Yes.
How?
We were just friends that met at a party and hung out often.
Starting when?
That was in December of 2019.
And what made you decide to room together?
We were both looking for a place to live, so since we both needed that, we found this apartment together.
2 bedrooms?
Correct.
And you moved in with animals,
Correct.
I understand from the complaint.
Correct.
Cats?
Yes.
How many?
I had 2.
I had to.
I didn't ask you anything yet. You had 2. And Miss Kammer had 2. Any other animals?
No.
So you started to live together during COVID.
Correct.
Were you working?
Yes.
Was Miss Kammer working?
Yes.
What was the rent on the apartment?
It was $13.65.
And you each paid half.
Correct.
So far, correct? Was everything okay in 2020? September, October, November, December?
As far as rent?
No, as far as the living arrangement.
Oh, in 2020, yeah, we just had many squabbles, but overall, we were just fine.
I'm going to ask you the same question. In 2020, everything okay?
No.
What happened in 2020?
It was emotional warfare since I moved in with him. There was arguments with everything, even simple things like cleaning the dishes, just nonstop. I was terrified of him living with him. I couldn't bring anything up without it being an argument.
Okay, so prior to moving in with Mr. Hastings, where did you live?
With my parents.
How old are you?
I'm 21.
Is this the first time you had an apartment?
Yes.
And how far away were your parents from this apartment?
Probably like 10 minutes.
If you were terrified, you should have moved home.
I wasn't allowed to.
You weren't allowed to because?
Because I wasn't allowed to live with my dad and stepmom because they moved into a 55 and over neighborhood.
When?
They
If you tell the truth, you don't have to have a good memory.
They moved in a little after I moved into my apartment. I moved into my apartment to prepare for them moving out.
I just don't want to hear drama. If you had fights over who's going to clean the dishes I don't want to hear terrified unless you're terrified. And if you're terrified and you're 21 years old, you go back to where you came from, to your parents' house. If you're terrified, may not have liked it, but that's just kid drama. So, squabbles in 2020. Your lawsuit says that she disposed of your belongings. She filed a restraining order.
Yes.
As a result of the restraining order, you were evicted from the apartment.
Yes.
It was a false restraining order. You hired a lawyer to appeal the finding of the judge
Yes.
that you had harassed her because this restraining order was based on harassment.
Yes.
May I see a copy of it, please?
I have a copy of the restraining order.
Of the order or what it was based on?
It said it has the whole thing. It says what it was based on.
Yeah, I see what she has. It doesn't look like it was what it was based on. You do a write-up of what it was based on.
On the front page, in a little box, it has a little description of what happened.
Okay, so the judge who heard this case, and I'm assuming everything in this write-up is true, on the above date, which was the 7th of September 2021, on the above date and time, defendant and the plaintiff engaged in a verbal argument over household chores. The defendant then made comments to the plaintiff that he would go crazy on her and raised his fist. The defendant stated this multiple times and started shaking in anger, causing the plaintiff to be in fear for her life. And you had a hearing on this?
Yes.
You had a hearing on this. You told this to a judge?
Yes.
Yes.
I want you to tell me what you told the judge, or did you tell the judge anything?
I told the judge that I was raising my voice, but I was standing a good amount of distance away from her at the time, and that I was shaking because I wasn't being listened to, and that was it. There was no physical interaction there, only verbal interaction.
Did the judge say to you, how would you describe shaking in anger because you weren't being listened to?
I was shaking just because I was angry. I was just trying to keep my composure.
Well, that would frighten me.
Ryan Hastings claims his former roommate, Peyton Kammer, owes for a security deposit and personal belongings. Peyton is countersuing for rent and emotional distress.
Now, tell me, did the judge say to you, how would you describe shaking in anger because you weren't being listened to?
Can you repeat that question?
I don't know how you were shaking. You mean you...
I was shaking as in I was shaking just because I was angry. I wasn't being listened to. I was trying to keep my composure. So I was just shaking.
Well, that would frighten me. Actually, I don't know whether I'd put you out of your house, but that would frighten me. Mr. Hastings, where are you living now?
I just moved into a new apartment.
With whom?
Myself.
Better?
Yes, and my cats.
Perfect. Yourself and your cats. Great. Now, I'm going to tell you, Mr. Hastings, if that happened to me with a man who was larger than I was, that might frighten me if he appeared out of control. So I'm dismissing that part of your complaint, which seeks damages for a false restraining order.
Okay.
What you actually just testified to me, and I took everything that she said in her complaint against you. I didn't even have to ask her. I wanted to know what you told the judge.
Of course.
Then it was a reasonable issuing of a protective order, just to make sure that it appeared to me what you were testifying to is that she couldn't tell the difference whether you were composing yourself or whether you were out of control. Okay, so it was...
May I interject and just say that the restraining order was repealed and remanded, saying that the court did not find sufficient evidence to impose the order. And
whether it was or not, I don't care what... I'm not sitting as an appellate court.
Okay.
I'm sitting as a trier of fact for the first time in your civil action. And what you told me, in my judgment, was sufficient for a judge to say, you know, I don't want to preside over an assault case or a homicide case. This guy says he was shaking. She says he was shaking in anger. You say I was shaking to try to maintain my composure. Well, I'm not going to worry about them. Let him go find someplace else to live, which is what he did. So I think that that's reasonable. Money owed for return of security deposit. Now, he was put out of the apartment. He put in security deposit.
Correct.
And he was put out of the apartment. How much security deposit did he put in?
$682.
Are you still living in the apartment?
I am.
Okay. When he moved out of the apartment as a result of this restraining order, was there any damage in the apartment that he caused?
No.
Then you have to give him back his $682, because any damage that would have resulted since he moved out would be your damage, okay? That's fair enough. $682, that's your security deposit, sir. Return of belongings. Okay, so when you were told that you had to vacate the apartment, tell me what belongings you left in the apartment which you think she still has, which belong to you.
I do not believe she has anything of mine left in that apartment.
Well, what do you think she owes you for?
I am seeking the money for those items because they were thrown away.
What items?
So I had a bed.
Just a second.
Yeah.
You had a bed and there was a major flea problem in the apartment as a result of your cats.
Correct.
Okay, she threw away the bed. What else?
Okay. There was a Nintendo Switch.
Do you know what that is?
Nintendo Switch. I never found that. I believe he took that the night with him.
Okay, she didn't have it. She didn't throw it away. What else?
I also had a hookah that was in there.
What, a hookah?
Yeah.
Do you have his hookah?
No.
Go. What's next? Okay, if you have to think about it that hard.
I'm sorry.
Sir, we're finished. She owes you back your security deposit.
Okay.
That's $682. You have a counterclaim. Most of it is nonsense. You counterclaim for emotional distress. Forget that. Only one emotionally distressed usually in this room is me. Money owed for the month's rent, for a final month's rent. What is that?
He didn't pay the month of September. He was late on it.
The month of September.
But that would have been the $682.
Was he there in September?
September 1st would have been the day that the money was due.
No, when did he vacate the apartment as a result of your restraining order?
September 7th, when the night of the mistake, but he was late on rent often.
$682, that's what he gets.
Yes.
As he gets a security deposit back. Your counterclaim's dismissed. We're finished. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
This court is adjourned.
I don't really disagree with anything. Everything went perfectly the way I would have hoped it went.
I'm glad I got my security deposit back, but I could have definitely been compensated for the items that I lost.
I mean, he got a little money out of it, but way less than he thought he would. It's a good day.
Sometimes I can get anxious, but I would not hurt anybody physically.
I hope he gets some help.
Me and my cats are the best trio.
You know, I remember from a very early period in my life when I started college that I wasn't really good at having a roommate.
I think you must have passed that on to me.
I did, especially one that you don't love. You know, it's hard enough to live with somebody that you love. You know, get irritated. You know, she said they fought over dishes and not doing the dishes. Well, you know, you've lived with us, so, you know, I have that argument all the time. But I love him.
Yeah.
It's very hard to deal with somebody schmutz that you don't love.
Got to be careful and pick someone you really think and cross
I
your
don't think-
fingers and toes.
Actually, Sarah, I don't think you should pick anybody. I think that what you should do, if you can, is live in a shoebox by yourself, if that's all you can afford. You know how many roommate cases we've done just in the last couple of years?
All with stress and aggravation intertwined immensely.
Immensely, and that's without romance involved. I mean, this young man, who looks like a perfectly reasonable young man and very honest, said he told the judge that he was shaking. I said, well, describe to me what you were doing. And he shook. And
I would say that's a
crazy.
little out there.
She was getting under his skin. There's no question she was getting under his
Quarters,
skin.
middle of COVID,
you
everyone's
could,
inside.
You could tell she was getting under his skin. She was terrified. You know, she's 21 years old.
dramatic.
Yeah, a little dramatic.
Case 2078, Ali versus Miller. All parties, please step forward.
Syed Ali is suing dog owner Abra Miller for car damage from a dog attack.
Mr. Ali, you bought yourself a Tesla.
Yes, ma'am.
A new one?
Yes.
When did you buy it?
I bought it on 6th of June.
Of this year.
Yes.
How much did you pay for it, sir?
68.
And there was a loan on the car?
There's a loan on the car here.
So you have full insurance on the car.
Yes.
What's your deductible?
Deductible is $1,000.
$1,000.
Yes.
This is what your case is about. You were going to check on a child's house of yours.
Yes, ma'am. It's my son's house. I go there every day. We bought that house for on my son's and my name. It's for my...
Oh, so it's a house that's jointly owned by you and your son.
Yes, ma'am.
But you don't live there regularly.
I don't live there.
And where does Mr. Miller live?
He lives on a different street, but his backyard and my backyard, they meet each other in the back.
How long have you owned that house?
Since 2014.
Long time.
Long time.
Have you met Mr. Miller?
I met him a few times, yes.
Mr. Miller, you recall meeting Mr. Ali?
Yes, ma'am. Once.
Okay, but you've met him
Yes, ma'am.
before June 6th.
Yes, ma'am.
And your son lives in the house. Anybody else live in the house? You live
Ali
in the house.
and-
Is this a tenant in the house?
She's a tenant.
Yes. Does your son have dogs?
No.
And does the tenant have a dog?
She does.
What kind of dog?
A Yorkie.
You have a Yorkie?
Yes.
It's a small dog.
Yes.
Yes.
So you have one Yorkie in the house. And you have two dogs.
Yes, ma'am.
What kind?
A pit bull breed.
Pit bull?
Yes, ma'am.
And the other?
No, both are the same.
Both are the same.
One's actually the mom and the son.
And how old are they?
The mom's 10, the son's about 8
And you've had them for years.
since they were born.
So June 16th, you go to check on the house.
Yes.
Tell me what you saw when you pulled up to the house.
When I went there to the house to check my mail, I saw 2 dogs.
Where did you see the 2
I
dogs?
saw them in the porch.
On your porch?
Yes.
Okay. Had you ever seen those dogs before?
No, I never saw them before.
Could you describe them for me?
They're a big size. They are black and white, and they're.
One was black and white or both black and white?
No, the one is black and white, and I have some pictures of them.
Oh, you took photos?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Judge.
You took photos of them on the porch or initially when you saw them?
After I saw them, I was walking out, then I took the picture.
Okay, may I see the photograph? Take out the photographs of your dogs. Would you say, give me both photographs, please? I see. One is black.
One is white.
And one is fawn color and white. Are these pictures of your dogs?
Those are pictures of my dogs.
At his house?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now your dogs are out. You're not at his house, just your dogs.
Just the dogs.
Okay, so now I got it. So you took pictures of the dogs the day of this incident at your house?
Yes.
And these are your dogs?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, tell me what happened with your car.
Ed Ali claims dog owner Abram Miller owes for car damage after his dogs attacked Syed's Tesla.
Okay, tell me what happened with your car.
Then I realized that I think maybe I need to get away from them because they were very ferocious and growling. And I quietly walked away from them, go to my car, lock myself in, and I said, I need to get out. So I saw them, they were jumping all around my car and biting everything.
They were biting what?
Biting the right side of the tire, this side, and the rim and all that.
What your claim is that the dogs caused a substantial amount of damage to your car.
Right.
May I see the photographs of the damage?
Yes, ma'am.
So the car had scratches on it, I see. And what about the wheel rim? Is that, you're also showing me the scratches on the wheel rim?
Yes, they were biting all the rims and the tire, and they went into the front and bit on the bumper.
May I see that? Okay, have you seen the pictures?
Yes, ma'am.
He sent you pictures of damage.
He sent me some pictures, yes.
Of the damage. Okay, so now, Mr. Miller, what Mr. Ali is saying is that your dogs, who he has pictures of, that you acknowledge are your dogs,
Yes, ma'am.
caused damage to his car that he had for a week, that he paid almost $70,000 for. The dogs were clearly outside of your control. They were out of your control because you acknowledged that the photographs of them are without collars, without leashes, nobody around them, and the photographs are taken at his house. I'd like to hear a defense.
Your Honor, there was no way for my dogs to have done the damage. My dogs are older. One of them has no teeth. We have to put water and stuff on her food just so she can eat. The other dog's teeth are filed down. Both of them are up in age. My dogs have never harmed anyone. I have 10 cars of my own in my yard, and I've never had my dogs biting any tires, any damage.
Mr. Miller.
Yes, ma'am.
That's why they call dogs dogs. They're animals.
Yes, ma'am.
Because on one dog, it looks as if the incisors are filed down a little bit. Still has teeth, but the incisors are filed down. Is what you're telling me, that that was a natural process, or you had them filed down?
No, ma'am. Absolutely natural.
Absolutely not what?
Absolutely natural.
Absolutely natural. Okay, so the dogs still have teeth. They are smoother rather than sharp, but they still have teeth. Okay, but that's why they're dogs. You weren't there to witness this, so I have to assume that what the plaintiff tells me is true, because his evidence is consistent with that. He has photographs of your dogs outside of your control, no collar, no leash, at his house. And he said that he took those pictures on the date of the incident, and he has damage to his car. Now, if somebody has that problem, they don't want to blame the wrong person. And the dogs he's identified as causing the damage are your dogs. I'm still waiting for a defense. You mean the fact that they've never done it before you think is a defense?
No, ma'am, not.
What were they doing outside of your control?
They actually got out of my yard from a previous tenant of his dogs that dug a hole up under my gate.
Just a second. So a previous tenant of his had a dog.
I had several dogs.
Several dogs.
Yes, ma'am.
Doesn't live there anymore, dug a hole under the fence. When did that happen?
That was earlier that year.
Okay, and when did you first discover it?
I didn't realize it until after this incident.
Are you trying to tell me that it happened earlier in the year and your dogs just found the hole? They had never been out before? Is that what you're trying to tell me?
Yes, ma'am.
Oh, I don't believe that, sir. You're responsible for his deductible. Did you have the car fixed?
No, not yet, ma'am.
Why not?
I have an estimate, and I approached him of that, and I said, let's see if we can do something about this.
Mr. Ali.
Yes, sir.
You
Yes,
have
ma'am.
insurance.
Yes.
And you have insurance for this type of problem.
Yes, Judge.
And you have a $1,000 deductible.
Yes, Judge.
Did you advise your insurance company?
I wasn't, because I was trying to see what my good friend neighbor wants to do.
Do you own your home?
Yes, ma'am.
Do you have homeowners insurance?
Yes, ma'am.
Does the homeowners insurance exclude your pit bulls?
Do they exclude them? I'm not sure.
Well, in what state do you live?
Florida.
In Florida. Would you look up and see what's the name of your insurance carrier?
I'm not sure, Your Honor. I just switched insurance companies.
Did you have insurance, homeowners insurance, in June?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Absolutely.
Well, did you inform your insurance company that there was a problem?
No, ma'am.
Why not?
Because I was trying to get an understanding of what was going on.
I'm just telling you what's going on. So now you know what's going on. Your dogs caused damage to his car. Most states now exclude certain dogs from their policy. One that's right on top of the list are pit bulls. You are aware of that.
Yes, ma'am.
And either you pay a higher premium or the insurance company says we're not insuring them. You do understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so now you understand. Does your policy exclude your pit bulls?
I don't think so. No, ma'am.
Well, I don't know, and I don't know how to find that out unless you can give me a definitive answer, Sarah. It depends upon the insurance company.
It does.
Yeah, and you don't remember your insurance company. So, Mr. Ali, he's not paying the $8,000 that it's going to take to fix your car. That's what you have insurance for. Okay? But he's going to pay the deductible. You have insurance. It's a brand new car because you have a loan. So you must have insurance, which I'm sure you do.
Yes, I do.
Then if you were having a difficult time with Mr. Miller and his insurance, which I could probably understand because it may exclude his dogs from the policy, you have to advise your insurance company. And I don't understand why you didn't do that.
But I was going to see if he wants to go ahead and fix it.
Well, he's not paying $8,000 to fix it. He's going to pay the $1,000 deductible on your policy.
He was suggesting me that he could just go and get a spray paint and paint that little thing. And I didn't like that idea. And I said, let's go to Tesla and have it done by the properly from...
Absolutely. I agree with you. It's a brand new car. You should have it done by Tesla through your insurance.
That's true. Yes.
Good. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $1,000, which covers your deductible. We're finished.
This court is adjourned.
Animal control said my dogs were so loving and peaceful. They showed no aggression to them.
I mean, I like to have people as good neighbors.
Even after they put the pole and the hoop around their necks, my dogs were wagging their tails.
The neighbor's dog has some damage to my car, and I want the neighbor to be up to that responsibility.
The plaintiff bought a new Tesla and has a loan on the Tesla. When you have a loan on a car, you're required by the lender to maintain insurance, both collision and liability. This is not a malicious act. It was a careless act. And I think he should use his insurance to pay for it. I think it was fair. I don't think that there was an issue of fact. Did you?
No, I didn't. I think that was fair because you have insurance for that purpose so that you don't have to pay $8,000 out of pocket to fix damage from an accident. So he should have used it.
Should have used it.
2088, Jenkins versus Barnes. All parties, please step forward.
Fenshia Jenkins is suing her former roommate, Victoria Barnes, for rent and a security deposit.
Miss Jenkins, you were a short-term roommate of the defendants.
Yes, ma'am.
She put an ad on the internet.
Yes, it was in a Facebook group. I was referred by my college. It was for subleasing, rentals, apartments, of that sort.
A room?
Yes.
Do you have a copy of the ad?
I actually do.
I would love to take a look at it.
No problem.
What college do you go to?
University of Alabama at Birmingham.
Miss Barnes, you were pretty specific in this. It says it's average about $800 a month. Utilities included, unfurnished, looking for a female roommate, sublease, personal, bedroom and bathroom, pool, tennis, laundry site. Must be willing to complete a background check.
Yes.
Okay. And did you go to look at the room?
Yes, ma'am.
On what date?
It was the same day that I signed the sublease which was, I'm so sorry.
It was February the 10th.
No, I moved in on February the 10th. That is incorrect. We signed our sublease on, I believe it was actually maybe January 22nd.
Does it have a date on it?
This only has the date for when I will be moving in and
May
moving
I
out.
please see it?
The date is on the signature page.
Okay. It's on the last page of that packet.
You don't have to help her prove her case.
I just want to make sure she got it right.
You don't have to help her prove her
Yes,
case.
ma'am.
Well, who crossed this out? It says subleasee is one of, first it said one, that's crossed out, and then it said two total tenants occupying the premises.
I did cross that out because it is two of us. And I accidentally wrote one of one, but it's two of us total. And that was crossed out on the date that I signed it.
Is that correct?
Yes, it was quite a few pages on there.
So it was agreed that there would only be the two of you occupying the premises.
Not completely correct.
That's what it says, that there would be two people
Yes, ma'am.
occupying the premises. Am I correct?
In the initial agreement, I made it clear that...
No clear. This says the sublessee's interest in the sublessee is one of two total tenants occupying the premises. That's what the lease says, which means there are only two people, according to this sublease, which is signed, who will be occupying the premises. That's all it says. I haven't finished the next page yet, but that's what the lease says. Not what you made clear, not what you might have said outside of this. This is what's binding.
Okay.
And this indicates that the subleasee, that's you,
Yes, ma'am.
does not need to obtain her permission.
Not at all.
Overnight guests, which would make sense that she doesn't need your permission to have overnight guests.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. This is what your case is about. Now I've read this agreement. You moved in February 10th?
Yes, ma'am.
And started to have difficulty because Miss Barnes has a boyfriend. That would be you.
Yes, ma'am.
And he was there a lot.
No, that was not a problem.
Well, according to you, it was a problem when he had his own key.
Yes.
And he came, according to you, unannounced.
Yes, ma'am. Alone.
Well, it doesn't say that he has to be announced. I can understand it if he was occupying the residence with his own key and there all the time. That certainly would be in violation of the lease. Would you stand up for a second? Tell me your name, sir.
It's Sean White.
Are you and the defendant currently living together now?
No.
Have you ever lived together?
No.
Can you tell me why it would be that you would have a key to her premises?
Well, she is my fiance. We've been together almost...
Because she's your fiance?
Yeah.
When did she become your fiance?
Around a year ago.
And is there any reason why you're not living together?
Yes. In recent...
Yes. You're going to tell me.
Yes, ma'am. I'll tell you. In recent events, I just lost my father, and I'm trying to launch my trucking company and get that off the ground, so it's just... wouldn't be the best thing right now.
How far is your residence from your fiance's?
About an hour and a half.
And her residence from your business?
I'm a truck driver, so I'm always mobile, but where I load at, she's usually close to it.
And that's when you stay at the house?
Yeah.
And how many times a week do you load your truck?
Close to her, maybe 2 or 3 times.
2 or 3 times a week?
Yeah.
So that means that you're spending either 2 or 3 nights a week at her house?
Yes.
Yes. And that's been going on for how long, sir?
Just this year.
So far, we're doing fine. You see, I don't yell unless someone provokes me.
Heard.
He seems like a very nice man, nothing that frightens me, right?
Thank you.
And he visits his mother on Sunday. The guy is a hero, perfect for you.
Thank you.
I don't know what you want from her.
Vanshia Jenkins claims her former roommate, Victoria Barnes, owes for rent and a security deposit.
Mr. White, do you keep a certain amount of clothes at Miss Barnes' apartment?
No, Your Honor, they're usually in my truck.
When you're going to stay over, do you bring up a bag or do you bring up a backpack? What do you bring up with you?
A bag and a backpack.
Do you have toiletries in her bathroom?
No, ma'am.
You carry that with you?
Yes.
Now, when you're on the road, if you stay over 2 or 3 days a week at Miss Barnes's house and you're on the road, how many days a week are you on the road and sleeping either in your truck or at a motel or at a truck stop?
Between 2 and 3 days. It's all depending on where I go.
So that brings us to maybe 5 days a week or 6 days a week. And where is your home?
Aforementioned 1 hour.
Is
hour
that
and
where
30
your
minutes.
father lives?
I'm sorry, but he's passed.
He passed?
Yes.
Okay, so the house that you're staying in is his house?
Yeah.
Anybody else live there?
My mother.
So that 1 day a week you stay with your mom?
It's usually probably a Sunday when I don't have anything to do.
Do you stay at your mother's house?
Yes, that's my primary residence. Like it's maybe two days out of a week.
Mr. White, this is what we're getting. You see where we're starting to smile now? If you see your mother on Sundays and you're on the road half the week and you're at the defendant's house half a week, you can tell me from today until the cows come home that your mother's house is your primary residence. But if you look at it objectively, put your hand down. If you look at it objectively, you're on the road part-time. When you're not on the road, 3 times as many days a week you stay at her house. 1 day you stay at your mother's house, and you tell me that that's been going on since the beginning of the year, which would be January or so of 2022. That's what you just told me, and that actually makes sense.
I beg to differ though. Like the time that I stay there, it might be 8 hours, and then I'm back on the road.
I don't care.
And it's like maybe 2 days out of the week.
Now you can sit down, Mr. White.
Wait.
Okay, I get the scenario, and not unusual, you were unhappy with this more frequent access than you were advised of.
May I add, I was not unhappy with how much he was there. It was only the fact that he had came in by himself and she hadn't let me know. I only had told her that that made me uncomfortable, and I got kicked out for it.
That's not true, Your Honor.
Well, when you say got kicked out, I think you acknowledge that you gave her a 30-day notice to leave.
Yes, ma'am, I did.
And other than this issue of house guests, were there any other issues that you had with her?
When the situation happened, she texted me and asked me where I was. I told her when I got home that we can have a conversation, and that's when an argument ensued, and multiple arguments happened after that.
Were they all about house guests?
Just about, yes, ma'am.
And at the beginning, they were all about Mr. White.
Right.
Okay. And your sublease agreement actually specifically says that only 2 people are living there.
Yes, ma'am.
And Mr. White has already made it crystal clear to me that he spends his time either on the road or at your house visiting his mom on Sunday. And that sort of makes this fuzzy. Okay, anyway, it didn't work out. He seems like a very nice man, nothing that frightens me.
Thank you.
Right?
Thank you.
And he visits his mother on Sunday. The guy is a hero. Perfect for you.
Thank you.
So you moved out, you got another apartment, whatever it is. I don't know what you want from her.
I want the money that I gave her, period.
What money?
So she made me pay her a security deposit.
No, just a second.
Yes, ma'am.
Security deposit.
Yes.
Fine. Did you get your security
No, ma'am.
deposit back?
Absolutely not.
How much was your security deposit?
$350.
Okay. Did you return her security deposit?
No, ma'am.
Okay. You have to return her security deposit.
Well, being as though she left the room damaged, I didn't feel like I needed to.
You have photographs of the damage?
I have stained carpets.
Just a second. Do you have photographs of the damage?
No, ma'am.
Good. $350. She gets her security deposit back.
Yes, ma'am.
What's next?
The remainder of the rent for the month that I moved out, which I moved out within.
Just a second.
Yes.
Did you pay her March's rent?
Yes, ma'am.
You did?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. You paid that the beginning of the month?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And how much did you pay her?
$630.
Incorrect.
Clearly paid you February's rent when she moved in.
Yes, ma'am.
Did she pay you March's rent?
So she gave me...
That's either a yes or a no. If she paid you March's rent, did you get 2 months' rent from the plaintiff?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And she moved out.
Can I explain why I don't feel like I'm entitled to give her the money back? Because the apartment complex, when we got into the initial argument and I was made aware of the slander and the allegations that she was portraying against Sean and myself, I was told that being as though I made it legal on paper that she has 30 days to the resident, that she would still access to my apartment for the remainder of the month of March until the 17th of April. And also Sean has seen her sending people to my house, her coming in and out of my house when I was at work, supposedly gathering her things, but my personal belongings came up missing.
Oh,
and she had access
Hold on
to
one
it.
second. After March 17th, did you have any property in the apartment? Just be very careful what you say to me. After March 17th, you say you physically left the apartment. Did you have any property there? That's either a yes or a no.
May I confirm the date so I just don't give you false information? Okay, thank you. So the very last day that I was there was...
March 22nd.
Shh. You keep doing that. You keep
I'm sorry.
doing that.
I'm sorry.
Okay, good.
Okay, so the very last day that I was there was on, I believe, March 20th.
Oh, then you owe for the month of March. Then you get your security deposit back, $350. We're finished. Thank you very much.
But that's all, Judge.
What? That's what she gets, her security deposit back. That's it. She gets her security back. Doesn't get rent, doesn't get moving costs, doesn't get damages. She gets her security deposit back. Goodbye. Have a happy life. Have a nice lunch.
This court is adjourned.
I really just thought that everything was fairly normal until just the conversation about me
A security deposit is the least of my concerns because I don't owe her rent.
expressing my discomfort with her boyfriend being in the house alone with me.
For her to even mention him harming her in any type of way is not only offensive, but it's disrespectful.
It wasn't like, you know, he was my personal friend or I met him anywhere else. I met him through her, so I just didn't want to be home alone with him.
Honestly, it's outrageous. The implicate that I do anything to her is beyond me.
My safety does come first. I put me first. I gotta put me first.
I wish her nothing but the best away from me.
I thought that the fiancé was absolutely charming.
I did too.
I thought he was such a nice guy.
Visits his mom on Sundays, has a job.
Hard-working, regular, stayed home while his dad was ill. Really a nice guy. But it was clear that he may say my primary residence is with his mother, but that's a visit on Sunday. When he can, he stays with his fiancée in the house. Clearly that was not part of the lease, but forget about that, Sarah. She's a tough broad.
Oh, a little bit of an attitude.
She had a little bit of an attitude. So I don't know.
It's always the nice guys that end up with
somebody with
women with the attitude.
He's got to watch his P's and Q's.
Oh, yeah.
Anyway, I'm glad they're happy, and I'm glad that they're together in their apartment, which is probably the way she would prefer it anyway.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Morgan Larson is suing defendant Chris Bumgardner for vandalism after his 16-year-old son damaged her car.
Court come to order. All rise.
Have a seat, everyone.
Hello, Judge. Case 2101, Lawson versus Bumgardner.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Ms. Larson, it is your claim that the defendant's son, I assume that's this young man over here, vandalized your car. And he vandalized your car by smashing in a side mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Which required you to be without a car for a day while they fixed it. So you want his father, who was actually present at the time, to pay for the damage.
Yes, ma'am.
From what I gather, this happened on Father's Day, which was June 19th
Yes.
of this year, and you were going over to visit your father
Yes.
for Father's Day. Stand up. What I gather from your complaint, was he sleeping?
Yes, he was.
Okay. Some sort of an altercation happened, which you'll tell me about in a moment. His father was called.
Yes, ma'am.
His father came. This kerfuffle continued, and when they were on their way out, this young man, whose name is?
Caden Bumgardner?
Caden.
Caden.
Caden smashed in your passenger mirror, and his father says, well, he actually saw him do that, but it was just pushing in the window, the mirror, and really all you had to do was pull it out, and it would have been fine.
Right.
That's your defense?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So let's start out when you arrived at your father's house. What time?
I arrived at my father's about, I would say, about 11:15.
Okay. What happened?
And it woke up Caden in the process. Caden got upset.
What did he say? How did you know he was upset?
He started screaming and pretty much saying, why the heck are you coming in here, waking everybody up? You have no right to.
Okay.
And then after that, Caden got up and started yelling, started punching the walls, screaming. My father went in there, and then his father, Chris, ended up getting called to come get Caden.
How far do you live from where Miss Larson's father lives?
About 7 miles away.
How old is your son?
He's 16.
Is he the oldest one of your children, in the middle?
The youngest.
Any other children at home other than him?
No, ma'am.
So he's the baby and he's home?
Yes.
Who sets the rules for him?
Well, I do.
Where did you think he was going?
No, I knew he was over they had something to do for Mother's Day, and then they had
That was
another-
Father's Day.
Well, I know, but I'm saying for the entire
Well, Mother's Day is in May, Father's Day is in June.
But they
usually
something-
don't have
they had
carryovers.
something planned, I don't know. But anyhow, yeah, he was over there.
Times have changed, life has changed. The only time you got to sleep outside your house when I was growing up was when you were outside in a pine box or a white dress. That was it. Those were your choices.
Yes, ma'am.
That's the way you could leave your parents' house, right? I chose the dress. All right. Now, Caden, I'm going to come around to you because, you know, we're not talking about somebody losing 2 pints of blood or somebody losing a finger.
Yeah.
I know what it's like to wake up a teenager at 11:30 in the morning. I'm usually ready for dinner at 11:30 in the morning. But teenagers, you know, they're still growing, so they sleep late. But you were particularly annoyed when Miss Larson came in, right?
Yes.
Why?
Well, she did put it the right way, but she didn't put it the right way because.
But just to tell me why.
Well,
Don't look at her. Talk
She
to me.
didn't just wake her up. She came in there loud.
When she walked in, Caden, to a room in her father's house, what did she say? And tell me in what tone of voice she said it.
She said in like a excited voice, but not like a mad voice, excited voice.
All right, and that got you mad.
No, that's not what got me mad. I didn't
What got
talk
you
to her.
mad?
By the time I could even finish my sentence, she's already busted in through the door and was in my face saying, "You got something to say to me."
Just a second. You're not following me. She came in, and the first thing you said was she was talking too loud, and I want to know what you said to her.
I didn't say nothing to her.
Nothing.
Nothing. I didn't even
Nothing.
look at her.
And then she left. So
She cussed at me, but then she walked in there and she later
who
said,
cussed at you?
Her. And then she later said
Well,
that
just
she
a
was
second.
talking-
I didn't get to that part, that she cussed at you. If you didn't say anything to her, what would she cuss at you?
Because she got a phone call from her saying that she wants me to get ran out of the house. That's how this all started.
Just a second. Oh, that's a different story. Okay, so what you're saying to me is you believe that she came over for the purpose of getting you out of the house.
I believe so, yes. Because that's what I got told.
Well, let us assume for a moment that's true. That would sound right to me. Get him out of the house. It's 11:30 in the morning on Father's Day. We want to have a party here. Get him out of the house. That would sound right on the money to moi. Right on the money. I mean, if that's what it was about. So I don't care if that's what it was about or not. Okay, your father comes. What happened when you got there, sir?
When I showed up, I went to the door, I knocked on it, they answered the door, it was pretty
Look
chaotic.
at me.
It was pretty chaotic.
Describe what chaotic is.
Okay, there was a bunch of yelling and screaming going on between Caden, my son, and the plaintiff.
And Miss Larson.
Miss Larson, yes. And I told my son, I said, hey, you just need to step outside and let me figure out what's going on here, and I'll be right out. I tried to talk to Mark. Mark come out of the room.
Who's Mark?
That's the father. He was being very disrespectful, he said, and he said he wanted him to leave. I said, okay, that's no problem, I'll get him
Just
out
a
of here.
second. The father came out of the room and said, I want Caden to leave.
Right.
And did he leave?
When I come and got him, we left, yes, we did.
And he walked out the front door.
Yes, he did.
And when he walked out the front door, he passed the plaintiff's car.
Yes, I believe so.
What do you mean? You wrote it in your answer, sir.
Yes, I
so
did.
the answer
Yes,
is
I did.
yes.
Yes.
And you saw him do what to the mirror? Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
And later today,
What do you think that I think of a person who says, okay, I'll go with you to this very, very sad time? Someone who I've been close and intimate with for months, but it's going to cost you $900.
Morgan Larson claims Chris Bumgardner's 16-year-old son, Caden, vandalized her car.
Now, you saw him do what to the mirror?
Push it in.
Okay, very good. Now, do you have photographs of the pushed-in mirror?
I do.
I'd like to see it.
Okay, one moment.
Just for my own curiosity, you knew that it was wrong for him to touch that mirror.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, and if what you say is he just pushed the mirror in and all it had to do was be, you believe, to be clicked out?
I believe to be
just,
clicked out.
Why didn't you do that? Why didn't you say to him, don't touch somebody else's property? That's what this is all about.
Well, I
Your
believe I
temper.
did say that to him.
Just
I
a
said,
second.
Don't put your
Well,
hands.
then why didn't you pull out the mirror if that's all it was? If you say the only thing
because
wrong
she
with the
was
mirror is
coming
that it has to be pulled out, why didn't you do that? You didn't see him touch the mirror.
No, I did not.
You were there.
She was right behind us.
She didn't see it. You saw it. So my only question to you is, if you saw it and it was that minor thing, and you know what it is, either you can click the mirror in and then you pull it out. I'm always afraid to click it out that I'm going to break it.
Exactly.
You're not suggesting that anybody else touched this mirror to damage it. No. Okay, let's see. What did he use on the mirror, sir? What did he use to hit the mirror?
I believe it was his hand.
When you say you believe it was his hand, did you see what was in his hand?
He had nothing in his hand.
Did his hand get bloody?
No.
Okay, Kevin, would you turn these over to the defendant, please, and get from the plaintiff an estimate for the damage?
That's not what...
Well, they ripped it off there.
Well, yeah, clearly, because that's not what it would look like when I see. Because when he walked by, he just simply... Okay. And I said, now, Caden, that's enough.
So you had a $500 deductible on your insurance?
Yes, I did.
And you had it fixed?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And you paid $442.74. Good. How long did it take them to fix it?
I would say about a month with the parts being on back order. And
but you had the use of the car all that time?
No.
Oh, of course you did. Okay. Just want to see what you have for a car rental.
Your Honor, I don't understand this car rental part of it. I've been without a mirror before.
Sir, you're not allowed to drive without 2 mirrors.
Then there was one in the cab as well. That's 2 mirrors, isn't it?
I don't know what you're asking me, sir, because at some point you just have to take the car, and let's say it takes a day once you get the parts. At some point you have to take the car in and you're without a car for a day. Well, then you can either be without a car for a day or you can rent a car for a day. I'm not giving her a rental for a month. I'm not crazy. You know, there's a certain amount of inconvenience that one endures when somebody else vandalizes a piece of their property. And that's part of the punishment.
Well, I understand.
Yeah, I'm glad you understand. Don't minimize what he did. I would have slapped him upside the head if I saw him take his hand and knock off somebody's mirror. I really didn't mean that. I don't believe in corporal punishment.
Amen.
I don't think you needed 15 days to fix this.
I didn't think so either.
Well, I certainly don't think so. But you're entitled to a day's car rent. So I put that down as $200, including everything, $642.74. Judgment for the plaintiff. Thank you very much.
This court is adjourned.
I didn't think that I needed to pay the whole $1,300 out of pocket.
I'm just glad someone finally held them accountable for what they did.
The mirror, I was walking past it and just hit it. Bam, you know what I mean?
I finally am getting reimbursed for the money I had to pay.
I knew what I was doing, and when I did it, I did regret it after I did it, you know what I mean?
I feel like some people need to control their children better.
It's also a sign of the times that this father did not own up to what he saw.
I will say he was on the more responsible side of parents than some that we've seen here. He said, I said, Caden, what are you doing? This is not how you act. This is not how you behave. So that I almost appreciated. But he didn't take it as far as you or I would have liked.
As far as knock at the door. I know this is hot. My son did something wrong. I'm going to pay for it.
Yep.
Whatever it is. I have to come into the 21st century kicking and screaming.
I'll try and help you as much as I can.
Thanks.
Case 2105, Davey versus Miller. All parties, please step forward.
Melissa Davey is suing her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Miller, for an unpaid loan.
Mr. Miller, I think I'm going to start with you today, just because I have to kind of shake it up for myself. Otherwise, I get stale. You and Miss Davey were sort of in a relationship for a brief period of time.
Yes, Judge.
Never lived together.
No.
There came a time when you wanted a new car. Not a new car, but a better car.
Yes.
You wanted a better car because you wanted to use that car as a driver for Uber.
Yes.
And you needed a down payment.
Yes.
And according to what I've read from Miss Davey, and what you seem to acknowledge in your answer, Miss Davey loaned you $1,200.
That is correct.
Things didn't work out, which happens. You paid her back $300.
Yes.
Did not pay her back $900.
Correct.
So that would make it easy, except that you have a defense.
Correct.
And I'm going to let you tell me and the rest of the world what that defense is and show the world what a prince of a guy you are.
I hope I can do that.
You're no longer together.
Correct.
You owe her $900.
No.
Well, you just acknowledged that you paid her $3 and you owed $9 because she gave you $12.
I owed $9.
I said at that point you owed $9. You're no longer together.
Yeah, I'm sorry. I misheard you then.
Okay. Well, I sympathize with that because I do a lot of mishearing myself. But what I said to you was, at the time you broke up, you owed her $900.
That is correct.
Now you're going to pick it up from there and tell me and the rest of the world what your defense is. Because I read it. I just want to hear it from you.
All right. At the time of our breakup, you are correct. I did owe Miss Davies $900 and had told her that I would continue to pay on the debt that was owed.
Okay, and what was the month and year of your breakup?
End of April, maybe?
End of May.
End of May?
May.
Okay, end of May, broke up, owing $900. And you said?
I tried to be cordial and have conversations periodically with Miss Davies, and they did not go well. And then Miss Davies had to put her...
No. You tried to have conversations with her with a view towards what?
Just to reassure her that I was going to pay her back the rest of the money.
Okay, so she would call you and say, where's my money?
No, I would send her a text and kind of chat, and then I would give her a quick call and say hello, and we would have just a little chat every now and then, just to remind her that, hey, I will pay you back the money.
That sounds so off, Mr. Miller. People don't usually call an ex-girlfriend who they owe $900 to and say, hey, by the way, I know I'm going to pay you back the money, I just need a little time. That usually comes from the other side contacting them and saying, I would like my money.
Typically, you are correct that most people, if you owe the money, you don't contact the person that is owed the money. I didn't want her to do that. I didn't want to have her come to me and be like, hey, where is my money?
Okay, so you break up the end of May. Did you give her any money in June?
I gave her one in April and one in July of $154.
So at the time that you broke up, you had only given her $150.
Correct.
Later on, she kept bothering you, you were reassuring her, and in July, you gave her another $150.
Correct.
Keep going, and I still get $900. Where does it say she's forgiven your debt?
The very top one, I believe it says you won't have to pay for a thing.
No.
And that was...
No. Miller, this doesn't say she's forgiven your debt.
Melissa Davy claims her ex-boyfriend, Joseph Miller, owes for an unpaid loan.
I still get $900.
In July, she had to put her dog down. And
that was in mid-July?
I believe, yeah, about the...
July 11th.
So you'd already given her the other $150.
Yeah, and...
So she called you and said...
She sent me a message that said, hey, I'm going to do this. So I called, and she's like, hey, I'd really, really like you there.
I can't... The last couple of words you just sort of muttered, sir. I don't know why you sort of muttered them. She called you and said...
I would really love to have you there. I don't want to do this alone. I would really appreciate if you would come.
Okay. And did you think of that as a reasonable request?
Yes and no.
Okay. Did you agree to go?
After we talked...
No. I want you to tell me what she said and what you said.
She said that she would do anything.
No. I really want you to go. And this is on the phone. That's what you told me. This was on the phone.
Yes.
So you didn't say that she could see on the phone. She said, I'd really like you to go. And you said what?
I think that could be worked out.
Okay. I think that could be worked out.
Yes.
And then what's the next thing that was said, and by whom?
I believe she said that I would do anything to have you there. I don't want to do this alone.
Well, you told me that before. After she said, I really don't want to do this alone. I would really like you to be there with me.
And I said...
And you said, that could be... What did he say?
He said, okay, I think that could be worked out.
I think that could be worked out. Okay, so that's what you said. And then who said something after that?
She said that she would do
She already said she would do anything?
Yeah, she would even relieve my debt.
She said that, or did you?
She said that.
She said it?
Yes.
Okay, because that's what his answer was here. Okay. And so then you said to her, fine, I'll go with you. And you went with her, and you spent 3-4 hours there while the unfortunate business of an end of life for a beloved pet takes place. And prince that you are, you relieved yourself of the $900 that you owed her.
Yes.
Just for my own information, how long did you and Miss Davy date or have a relationship? A month, 2 months, 3 months?
4 months.
4 months. Did you get close?
Tried.
Both of you, or just she?
Both.
So you tried to make it a warm, close, intimate relationship.
As best we could, yes.
And when you needed some help, she offered to help you.
Correct.
What do you think that I think of a person who understands the word close, warm, affectionate? What do you think that I think of a person who says, okay, I'll go with you for this very, very sad time? Someone who I've been close and intimate with for months, so I'm going to spend a couple of hours in the afternoon with you at this very tough time, but it's going to cost you $900. which is in effect exactly what you said, but it's going to cost you $900. Let us assume that I believe you, a reasonable ex-boyfriend who wanted to be, as you said, I didn't want her to have to come and chase me. I wanted to assure her. So a reasonable ex-boyfriend would say, sure, I'll keep you company.
In theory, yes. There were circumstances when Miss Davies and I broke up that were not the best for either of us. And it wasn't a cordial breakup. It was very rocky. At the time when she called and asked me to come, I didn't want to speak to her at all.
I would have respected that, sir. You say this was very rocky, it was nasty, we don't really like each other anymore, or I don't like you anymore. I don't know how she feels about you, and it's really not something that I want to do. I don't want to be involved with that. I could actually understand that if it was acrimonious, as you say. What I can't understand is somebody saying, I'll go with you, but it's going to cost you $900. That's what I don't understand.
Well, she brought that up. She was the one that stated that she would relieve the debt. And I was like, okay, whatever. So
okay, Ms. Davey, now it's up to you. Now I have been grilling Mr. Miller. So I have only one question to you. Do you remember the conversation when you discussed with him going with you to the vet?
Yes, I have it in text.
I'd like to see it.
Judge,
Speak not.
Okay.
Unless you have the text messages.
This is the date I called to make the vet appointment.
Sarah, can you tell me what dates these are?
Sure. If you go out, these were all Saturday, July 9th, and if you pull over, you can see the time.
Well, I'm looking at all these, and I don't see anything about her saying to you, if you come with me, I'll forgive your debt. So if you have one of those, I'll take a look at it.
The very top one. That was after a phone conversation with Miss Davis?
Just a second. Where does it say she's forgiven your debt?
The very top one, I believe it says you won't have to pay for a thing.
No.
And that was...
No. Miller. Miller. You know what I'm talking about, sir. She tells you to keep your gas receipts. So if you're coming to help her, it's not going to cost you anything out of pocket. This doesn't say she's forgiven your debt. You have family, you have siblings, parents, anything?
Yes.
Yeah, well, they're going to be disappointed in you, Mr. Miller, because it's not princely activity. It was clear to me from reading the plaintiff's notes to you that at least it appeared that she was struggling more with the end of your relationship than you were. That's just what it appears. And I'm a pretty good judge of that. And you sound like an intelligent man, soulless, but yet intelligent. So if you have any emotion whatsoever, you can look at this and say, this is a lady who's sort of struggling. Let me see how I can take advantage of that. I owe her $900. And I'm going to figure out that if I do this for her and it's really important, I shouldn't have to pay her back the $900. Unprincely, Mr. Miller. Judgment for the plaintiff in the amount of $900. We're finished here.
This court is adjourned.
People just sometimes don't agree.
It was very clear cut.
At the time, I was very upset with her.
I think he tried his best to just keep things cordial.
Move on and move forward.
Another wonderful relationship that's hopefully will not end up in court.
It intrigues me how men can make the jump from keep your gas receipts to you don't have to pay me your $900 debt. We read the messages and we were unclear as to what debt forgiveness in the messages. We didn't see it. He handed us the exact same text that we had read on her phone. He said, yeah, that's what that means.
I think he knew what it meant, because if you checked out his smirk when he handed me just that one piece of paper, he knew that when he said, keep your gas receipts, I don't want it to cost you anything to come with her to the vet, having nothing to do with the $900 debt. Oh, it's just amazing to me that after 27 years of doing this here, I have to do a breakdown of about 90% of the cases involve women who are giving money to boyfriends and then get left holding the bag, as opposed to the 10% of men who get caught up with situations where women are prepared to take advantage of them. But most of the time, it's women. I don't know, I think it all has to do with self-esteem, Sarah, and I think that the only way to ensure that you have that is having a way to support yourself.
Yeah.